This week we're dipping into dyes to show you your clothes' true colours. Hello and welcome to this organic pigment centre in Paris and to Environment. Coming up in this edition, we bring you to Cowboy City in China, where Pearl River has turned a worrying shade of deep blue, a runoff from the jeans factories along its banks. Before crossing to India, where you'll see that cotton fields are poisoning farmers who are forced to pick an uncertain future. Finally, we'll be looking at whether or not you should take the clothes off your back. Travelling miles, soaking up water and other energy resources, what we wear really can have an environmental impact. Well, if you think dressing in organic colours means you're refined to earth tones, think again. Even indigo can be green, as Betty de Barry, an expert in natural dyes, can tell us. Betty, thanks so much for letting us into your workshop. So Betty, tell me, how can you make these environmentally friendly dyes, this blue colour?
The first thing I put in the vat is a compost of leaves that contain indigo pigment. I add hot filtered water, filtered because it needs to be very clean. I add ashes from wood, which give the necessary alkaline element. And at the end of 8 days, the mixture ferments and gives me a dye that can be used to colour clothes.
Well, it takes time then and motivation to create these environmentally friendly indigo colours. Well, we cross now to China, where Pearl River is losing its shimmer, because there really is a devil in blue jeans.
Chinese people call it Cowboy City. That's because the 1,500 factories of Xintang are only focused on one product, jeans. Every year, 200 million pairs leave this city for stores throughout the globe. A gold mine for the local economy, a disaster for its rivers. The water is dark blue, a phenomenon even more visible from this satellite image. The blue jean industry isn't the only one responsible here, but experts say if blame is to be placed, a lot of it should fall on them.
A large part of this pollution comes from the textile factories upstream. The problem comes from the dye. Some small factories release small amounts of wastewater, but multiplied by the number of factories, the result is very big.
Some of these companies are washing factories. Their job is to give the jeans their faded color. Even worse are the dyeing factories and their tubs of pigment. Cameras aren't welcome in these buildings, but you don't have to go inside to see what's causing the damage.
It's very difficult to recycle the wastewater of the textile and dyeing industries. First, they use a huge amount of water. Secondly, there are a lot of complex polluting elements difficult to treat.
As a result of public pressure, the government is trying to consolidate all the companies into one industrial zone and forcing them to treat their waste. But in these villages, the water is as dark and smelly as it always was.
Look at these spouts. You can see some marks. From here, they secretly release their wastewaters at night. They don't want people to see it.
It's impossible to verify what impact this pollution has on human health. No serious studies have been conducted. The rare independent analysis reveals organic pollutants and heavy metals, but without precise data. So people make their own diagnoses, breathing problems and skin rashes, or worse. Even if future water quality improves, the concerns of these people will continue to linger. Textile chemicals are one of the toughest stains to eliminate from nature.
Well, one way of reducing the damage that can be done by our textiles is to waste not, want not. And here at this store, you'll find rows of materials left over after designers have finished their collection. Nothing is thrown away. It's one way of reducing the carbon footprint of our textiles. But it's not just our surroundings that are vulnerable. The way we make our clothes can also be harmful to people's health. We cross now to India, where chemicals spread on cotton are poisoning farmers and turning children's hair a worrying shade of grey.
Under a hot sun, a farmer sprays his crops in the Indian state of Punjab, one of the country's biggest cotton belts. It may look idyllic, but the chemicals being sprayed could be slowly poisoning this farming community. Farmers use a pesticide called endosulfan, so potentially toxic for humans, it's banned in more than 60 countries. But for Indian farmers, it's cheap and legal. Rajpadeep Singh's used pesticides half his life, but recently his health's deteriorated.
We use a lot of spray on our crops. Because of it, my eyesight's worse. I'm afraid of losing it. My father was a farmer and he died of cancer in 2006. We think it was because of this.
3,000 people live in Jajal. Everyone here works in agriculture. At the local health centre, a young patient arrives. When this medical officer started work 10 years ago, there were just a few patients a day. Now he sees more than 20, and he's surprised at the illnesses.
Because of pesticides, many people come to me with headaches, joint pains, stomach swelling, cancer, and breast cancer.
It's not just adults' health which is cause for concern. At the local school, a remarkable phenomenon. Young heads already sprinkled with grey hair.
We have conducted a study with AIMS Hospital, Delhi. Punjabi University had conducted a similar study in this area. That study established that there is a direct link between the early graying of hairs and the consumption of pesticide.
India doesn't want to ban certain pesticides because it's big business. India is the world's largest producer and user of endosulfan, bringing in $150 million a year in exports to scores of countries in Africa and Asia. So what's the alternative?
I switched to organic fertilizers for health reasons. Cancer has increased so much in our village. Before, we thought there was no alternative.
Singh's green gamble has paid off. His cotton fetches higher prices, but few here can afford to do the same because it takes a couple of years for the first yields. So until there's change, Punjab's cotton farmers are forced to pick an uncertain future.
Well, here in this Aladdin's cave of fabrics, you'll also find things like this black mud silk. It's silk that's been dyed using mud, which has also made it waterproof. A fairly environmentally friendly fabric then, however, it has travelled all the way from China. Indeed, the vast majority of our clothes have travelled many miles and gone through some energy-heavy transformations before they're ever worn. So just how harmful are the clothes on your back?
Did you know that your t-shirt has passed through at least 3 continents before it arrived in your wardrobe? It all begins in the fields of China, the United States, Pakistan or India, the 4 largest cotton producers in the world. It takes about 150 square metres of land and 230 grams of fertiliser to produce a single kilo of cotton fibre. But the t-shirts also use a lot of one other essential resource, water. It takes 2,000 litres to make one garment. The next stage involves spinning it into yarn and making it into fabric. The future t-shirt is then plunged into a soap bath and oxygenated water before being cut out and sewn together. This process is often done in North Africa, Latin America or Asia, as they all provide an abundant supply of cheap labour. The t-shirt is now ready to hit the shops and travels by truck, plane or boat to get to its destination. Even when it's safely in your care, this piece of fabric hasn't given up consuming energy. It does so every time it's put into the washing machine. Now, in the interest of sustainable development, more and more companies are offering recycled t-shirts. ReTshirt.co.uk sells ones that have been already used and are revamped. The aim is to use part of their profits to provide access to clean drinking water to those who don't have it.
Well, that brings us to the end of this edition of Environment. A big thanks to everyone who worked on it, notably the man on the other side of this camera, Rabah Zanoun. Thanks also to René Kaplan and Yong Chim. I hope you enjoyed it. It's now time to draw the curtain on this week's show. See you again next time.